technically I'm a millennial, but I'm at the very beginning of the millennial. Like I'm right there at the mark. And Emily, you're right there at the end, right? So we have a full generation on this show today. But so not only did millennials fight like hell, but the numbers, it really looks as though the future belongs to a more left-leaning politics, as well as an economic structure. Would like for one of you to speak to that. What is the future looking like economically in terms of ideology of the millennials?
Yeah, so I'll talk about it. There was a Harvard survey done a couple months ago that polled people under 30 and found that the majority of young people don't support capitalism, and that there's a significant percent that supports socialism, and then there's an in-between. And I think the work of groups like DSA is to pull that other, sliver our way and show them what the benefits of socialism and democratic socialism is, and that, especially for us, we know that democracy is about a lot more than just casting a vote. It's about direct action and constant organization and communication with everybody around us.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's drill down in that, right? Let's dig a little deeper, right? So we're moving to the left generationally, right? I think personally, to me, looking at Hillary Clinton, I think this is the last hurrah of the centrist DLC Democrat. And thank God, right? If we have to suffer through it for a couple of years, so be it. I believe it's signaling the end. It's like the death pangs of this centrist triangulating version of the Democratic Party. The millennial vote is showing us that it's shifting to the left. What does that look like in terms of policy, both domestic policy, economic policy, and even speak to the way that DSA is addressing it, racial policy and intersectionality? What does that actually look like?
You want me to start first, Sam?
Yeah, and then I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then circle around.
Yeah, no worries. So, basically, DSA's main focus right now is racial justice and intersectionality. And I know a lot of people think that socialists don't center either of them, but that's what we center our strategy on. Just 2 weeks ago, we endorsed the Movement for Black Lives platform, and that's going to be one of our key organizing. We're going to be organizing specifically around that. And we know that mass mobilization of working class people is going to include a lot of people of color, and we're not going to be able to build a viable, alternative or do entryism within the Democratic Party if we don't mobilize those bases. So for us, just DSA has historically had an older membership, but now we're averaging over 200 members a month, and our membership rate has quadrupled. So I think, the triangulation you were talking about and the Clintonism, we've lived this life our whole entire life, and it's just not that great. We know that we can do a lot better than this, and we deserve better than it, to be honest. The Obama years that they say are so great have been pretty shitty for young people. We've been in a great recession, ever since I finished high school. Employment rates aren't great for young people, and it's don't see anything really significantly improving. So establishing a really strong social welfare state, radical action on climate change, uniting an inter-left movement against Clinton's foreign policy. There's a lot of work we have to do, and I think everybody needs to realize that.
Jump in there, Emily, and talk about it from any perspective, whether it's the foreign policy changes that you would like to see, economic changes that you would like to see, and if you don't mind, speak also on the movement, the intersectional portion of the movement.
Right. And so I think one of the really important things that we're starting to see now is that, young people in general are getting a more global worldview. And I know that kind of is redundant, but before it used to be a very American-centric worldview, especially with anti-war activists in the 2000s against the Iraq War. It was all about America's place in the world versus like humanity's place in the world.
Right.
And I think if you look at sort of like the leftward trend of not just American millennials, but millennials in general, like if you look over across the pond with Jeremy Corbyn in the UK, you sort of start to see not only like a social leftward trend, but also an economic one, which I think is really just like, you can't have, successful socialism if it's not global, right? So like if anyone is oppressed, everyone is oppressed. And I think that's sort of like one of the really exciting things that we're really starting to see this year. And it sort of reminds me of, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, how, Black Lives Matter UK shut down one of the major thoroughfares going into Heathrow Airport, which is like the busiest airport in the world. And so, to sort of start to see this international cooperation and this general sort of excitement about taking back, a political system, whether it's, national or global, that has really, for the most part, worked against us for the longest time. And I guess like in sort of the really optimistic sense, it's like you have, this really wonderful base of intersectional politics. It's a discussion that we're having everywhere now. And I think it's so critical that we continue to have that discussion. But if we also include, not just speaking about, gay lives and Black lives and Hispanic lives and immigrant lives, but also talking about the economic factors that play into why we have these systems of oppression. And I think, DSA is really, taking a great step in the right direction by saying, look, we can link these things. Black people can never have, the freedom and the justice they deserve if they're still oppressed under a capitalist system. And, I think if you look at that globally as well, we can't have a world that, the world that we deserve, like Larry said, if we don't have, freedom from drone strikes in Syria, or if we don't have, free movement of people from, war-torn countries, war-torn because of American imperialism, between Syria, Turkey, Europe. And I think, even if it's just a small step, like saying, all right, we stand with Black Lives Matter, I think it's the right step. And I think it's just so critical that we continue to make those steps.